What I say to you now and what Attorney George just said to you is not evidence. We're just giving you our spin on what we hope that you will conclude after your deliberations. It's up to you and only you to decide what the evidence shows. Not what I say, not what she said. You are the finders of fact, not us. There's been some conflicting evidence in this case, some undisputed evidence. You've seen the video of what Mr. Ferlazzo Joseph told the police on the day he was arrested and detained. You know that in that video, and as he told you yesterday, he hadn't slept for multiple days, hadn't eaten. He says multiple times, my mind is scrambled, I'm not thinking clearly. But there is a roughly 2.5 hour recorded statement of what he tells the police happened. One of your jobs is going to be to decide if that was the whole story. If he was able, because of lack of sleep, the events that had transpired over the weekend prevented him from being clear and rational. You heard him tell you yesterday he has no memory whatsoever of that interview. None. He said it was like watching himself if he'd been at a party and been blackout drunk. He's seen that video, I think, 3 times now. He told you yesterday that he was revolted by his apparent detachment in describing the events of what happened over that weekend. And you saw him on multiple occasions express emotion in talking and thinking and remembering what happened. The detachment that he described, his demeanor, is part of his habitual. He said he was a closed person, very private, didn't like to express his feelings. And it's something he learned from childhood, something he learned in the course of his work as a tattoo artist, how to compartmentalize feelings, emotions. He told you as a tattoo artist he'd learned that because it hurts, you make small talk with people and distract them from the pain that they're experiencing. This is just a habit for him. It comes across, as he described, as revolting detachment, but it's his way of coping. What he told you yesterday is not what he told the police. He explained to you that his memory of what happened ended at some point that weekend. He remembers the events now. He remembers the events leading up to him shooting Emily. He remembers some of the events of Saturday, what he did. He doesn't remember much, if anything, of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. He told you that after he had had an opportunity to sleep for a couple of days, he came to and he started having nightmares and remembering things, bits and pieces. And even as he talked to you yesterday, he said his memory is fragmented, very fragmented. And he is struggling to understand what happened and why. What he told you yesterday is that over the course of their relationship, Emily had become physically abusive to him. The reasons the state would have you believe is that the state would have you believe that he's an egomaniac. It's up to you to decide if you saw any evidence of that in his demeanor or his testimony yesterday, that he shot her because she disrespected him. He told you clearly about how many times she had hit him with objects, with a cell phone, with her fists, with a laptop, with a wine bottle. gave him a black eye once, and he never hit her back. He said I would take her arms and restrain her. I would, until she calmed down, and say, we don't hit, we don't hit. They even went to a counselor together to address issues in their relationship. He said, I grew up with domestic violence, and I didn't want to bring a child into a relationship like that. That was his experience of interacting with Emily when she became frustrated and acted out physically against him. He told you that that weekend they were coming up here to see his sister and to celebrate their anniversary. They got here, they were both happy to be coming, both excited, and on a dime, she flipped. I don't want to be here. F you, F your family. I'm done. He's not denying that he sent texts to his sister. He's not denying much of what the state's evidence shows. He knows that and told you, yeah, I lied. I lied because I didn't want to I didn't want to tell my sister because you may or may not agree with his explanation. She didn't want his drama in her life. You heard the state say killing his wife was drama. Well, you have to put yourself in his shoes and his thinking. But in any case, that was his explanation for why he didn't tell Nikki about what he had done, that is, shooting his wife in the head. So that weekend they come up, they get into an argument. He told you clearly that she had been muttering and angry, and when he put on the candles, she was angry about that, and she picked up one of the candles and started hitting him. Hit him in the head, hit him in the arms, hit him in the torso, kicked him in the groin. He was able to stop that attack. He took the candle away from her, and then he took their dog out, Remy. It was raining. They went out for a walk. He had also told you earlier that he thought he saw coyotes and was afraid potentially about bears. And that's why he told her, get your Taurus and keep your peace with you. And he kept his Glock with him. There's no dispute that the guns were his. That doesn't mean she didn't use it. He said, she preferred the Taurus because the barrel was shorter, the handle. He used the Glock. That was hers, that was his. Legal ownership is not the issue. So they both had access to their guns that night. He comes back in from walking the dog. She's on the bed, scrolling through her phone, muttering. And he pours himself a drink, one of many that he had that night, many. Vodka and Red Bull. At some point, so he dries the dog off, dries himself off, and at some point decides, okay, now I'm going to get into bed. In order to do that, he has to climb across Emily. Emily says something, fuck you, something like that. He picks up the red pillow, which was right on the little couch they had next to the bed, and this pillow, swats her in the head with it. She turns to him and says, that's it, you're dead. That's it, you're dead. She elbows him in the groin. I had that backwards. First she elbowed him in the groin. Then he picked up the pillow and swatted her. Then he saw, and she said, that's it, you're dead. He saw her start to pick up the gun and shoot him. And you heard him tell you, I was terrified. I knew she was going to shoot me. That was his belief based on circumstances of that evening, what she said to him, the history of their relationship. He truly believed that she was going to shoot him and that he had to shoot her with the Glock that was already in his hand in order to save his own life. That's what he told you yesterday. It's not what he told the police, but that's what he now remembers happening. He also told you, I felt a wave. This he did tell the police. I felt a wave come over me. I was hot. I couldn't take it anymore. I felt blurry, loss of focus. All of that contributed to his decision, and it was a decision to shoot her. Then what? Then what happens? Well, he has some memory of sitting beside her body. He's told you a couple of times, I was talking to her at various points over the next couple of days. This is a man who was somewhat, if not heavily intoxicated, also smoking marijuana, just experienced a trauma, and is grasping, what do I do now? What do I do? When he talked to you about this, you saw him break down and become emotional and cry. This is not someone who is a cold-blooded murderer. He cared about his wife. You heard him describe their early relationship as euphoric and magnetic. He was in love with her. He kept telling her, this is not how we treat each other. You don't hit people. But on this night, he truly believed that she was going to shoot him. And that's why he shot her. So over the course of the rest of that night and into Saturday, he made attempts to prevent anyone knowing what had happened to Emily. He doesn't deny sending some of those texts. Some of them he doesn't remember. Some of them he does. And he told you, I lied. I know I lied from what he can remember. He was intending to try and go back to Pennsylvania to help his grandmother. You can decide whether or not you think that was a good enough reason for what he did, but that was how he was thinking at the time. He also said, I wanted to give her a burial. He has no recollection of stabbing her. None. None. The medical examiner told you there's no way of knowing when those injuries were inflicted, except that they were not immediately following death. Similar to the dismemberment, they also were not immediately following her death. This is not an easy case because on the one hand you have verifiable evidence of what happened, but what you don't have is the why. Mr. Ferlazzo gave you the why yesterday. He explained why he did what he did. Your biggest job is going to be to decide, is he lying now just to get away with it? Is what he told the police in that interview the whole truth? He told you he has only partial memory of the events that followed, and he admits, I shot her. He knows, he's admitting that. That's not what this case is about. This case is about why did he shoot her. Ego, or someone who had been pushed to the point where they could no longer tolerate being hit. And I know, he's big and a man, 20 years older. She was a little girl. You heard him tell you that she hit him and hurt him each time. She hit him with a bottle, hit him in the head with a a wine bottle. Hit him in the head with a big Yankee Candle. That hurts. You can do that however small, or the discrepancy in your size. And he didn't hit her back. Not once. The judge is going to instruct you on the rules of the law in this case, and it's not my job to do that. Your job is to assess what you heard him say yesterday, how he appeared, what you think about whether he's lying or not. That's your job. I don't envy you because I think it's a hard job, but that's what you will be asked to do. What do you believe is the truth? What he told you yesterday or what he said to the police? I think that you will find him not guilty of first-degree murder and acquit him on the grounds of self-defense. Thank you.
Ms. George, do you have a final summation?
Mr.